The massive alien ship appeared over New York without warning. It simply materialized, breaking every known law of physics, hanging in the air like a metallic cloud. The year was 2157, and humanity's first contact with alien life came not with a bang, but with a flash of light that turned night into day. Captain James Walker stood at attention in his crisp Earth Defense Force uniform, trying to keep his face neutral as he watched the alien delegates enter the United Nations chamber. Their bodies seemed to flow like liquid metal, and their eyes glowed with an inner light that made them look almost divine. The Earth Defense Force had chosen him as humanity's military representative for this historic meeting, though right now he felt more like a primitive tribesman facing gods. "Welcome to the Galactic Council's 47th assessment meeting," the tallest alien announced in perfect English. It called itself the High Counselor, its skin shifting through colors as it spoke. "We have come to evaluate Earth's readiness for joining the galactic community." Walker noticed how the other council members looked at Earth's military display with barely hidden amusement. They walked past the showcase of humanity's best weapons: railguns, plasma rifles, still in testing, and traditional firearms, their expressions a mix of pity and condescension. "You still use projectile weapons?" asked one of the council members, picking up an advanced assault rifle with 2 fingers as if it might bite. "How quaint. We abandoned such primitive tools thousands of years ago." Walker felt his jaw tighten, but kept his voice steady. "Our weapons have served us well, Counselor. They're reliable, effective, and—" The High Counselor raised a hand, cutting him off. "Please, allow us to demonstrate real weapons." It made a gentle gesture, and a small device floated from its robes. With another gesture, a shimmer of energy formed around it. A shield, Walker realized. This is basic protection technology. Even our civilian vessels carry such defenses. Impressive, Walker admitted, because it was. The shield glowed with a soft blue light, humming quietly. "Observe," the High Counselor said. It produced what looked like a thin crystal rod. A beam of pure energy shot out, splashing harmlessly against the shield. Energy weapons are the mark of a civilized species. They're clean, precise, and absolutely effective against any threat. Another council member stepped forward, its color patterns showing what Walker was learning to recognize as amusement. "Perhaps we should show them how their weapons fare against even basic shielding. It might help them understand their position in the galaxy." Walker watched as they set up their demonstration. They placed the shield device in front of a target and invited him to test their primitive weapons against it. He chose a standard-issue sidearm, took aim, and fired. The bullet dissolved into sparks several inches from the shield. The council members chittered in what had to be laughter. "You see, absolutely useless. Projectiles are stopped before they even touch the energy field. This is why the galaxy has moved beyond such things." Walker kept his face carefully blank, but his mind was racing. He had noticed something the aliens seemed to have missed in their satisfaction. Just before the bullet dissolved, the shield had flickered. Just for a moment, but it had flickered. "The Galactic Council has decided," the High Counselor announced, its tone both generous and condescending. "Earth will be granted protected status. We will provide you with basic shield technology and energy weapons. In time, you may advance enough to join us properly." "That's very generous," Walker said carefully. "And our current military technology?" "Oh, you can keep your projectile weapons as ceremonial items if you wish," another council member said, causing another round of alien laughter. "They make for interesting museum pieces." As the meeting concluded, and the aliens prepared to leave, Walker caught the eye of Admiral Reed in the observation gallery. The Admiral gave him a slight nod. He had seen it too. The shield's flicker. The tiny imperfection that the Council's arrogance had blinded them to. Walker smiled politely as the aliens departed, their ships vanishing as suddenly as they had appeared. As soon as they were gone, he headed straight for the Admiral's office. They had work to do, tests to run, and plans to make. The Council thought humanity's primitive weapons were a joke. Walker had a feeling they wouldn't be laughing for long. 3 months after first contact, the Earth Defense Force's underground testing facility buzzed with activity. Admiral Reed stood behind reinforced glass, watching as technicians prepared another round of tests. Next to him, Captain Walker checked the readings on his tablet. Test number 57, announced Dr. Anna White over the intercom. She had been working nonstop since the Council's visit, studying every aspect of their shield technology. Standard NATO round versus alien shield, speed increased by 20% from previous test. The gun mounted on the robotic arm fired. This time, the bullet didn't completely dissolve. Instead, it fragmented against the shield, and for a split second, the blue energy field rippled like disturbed water. Did you see that? Walker leaned forward, his eyes bright. The shield's response was different. Reed nodded slowly. Dr. White, what changed? The bullet's velocity, she replied, her voice excited. The shield seems to have a frequency response. It's not just raw energy. It's tuned to specific speeds and masses. Their discussion was interrupted by the arrival of 3 alien figures. The Council's military advisors glided into the observation room, their color patterns showing what humans now recognized as smugness. Still testing your projectile weapons? The lead advisor, who called itself Mentor, asked. We had hoped you would focus on learning to use proper energy weapons instead. Reed gave them his best diplomatic smile. Just documenting their capabilities for historical records, he lied smoothly. Would you care to observe? If we must, Mentor sighed. Though I fail to see the point. The next test used the energy weapons the Council had provided. As expected, the shield caught and dispersed the energy blast perfectly. The alien's colors shifted to show satisfaction. You see, Mentor gestured gracefully. Perfect defense. Perfect weapons. This is what you should be studying. Of course, Reed agreed, but his eyes met Walker's, sharing a silent message. They had both noticed something crucial. The shield took nearly a full second to recover its full strength after deflecting the energy blast. After the advisors left, the real work continued. Dr. White's team worked through the night, analyzing data and running simulations. They tested different materials, velocities, and impact patterns. Each failure taught them something new. Look at this, Dr. White said the next morning, showing Reed and Walker a simulation. The shield doesn't just stop objects. It tries to convert their kinetic energy into heat and light. But there's a limit to how fast it can process that energy. Walker studied the data. So if we hit it with something moving fast enough, the shield might overload. Reed finished. Dr. White, how fast are we talking about? She pulled up more figures. With current railgun technology, we can do it, but we'll need to modify the projectiles. Something dense, but with very specific properties. Over the next weeks, as the Council's advisors continued their condescending oversight, Earth's scientists worked in secret. They developed new alloys, tested different shapes, and pushed their railgun technology to its limits. Each failure brought them closer to success. Finally, after another long night of tests, they had their breakthrough. Modified tungsten penetrator, Dr. White announced proudly. Accelerated to Mach 15. Watch this. The projectile launched. This time, instead of dissolving or fragmenting, it punched straight through the shield. The energy field flared brilliantly and collapsed. Behind the test chamber's back wall, the penetrator had left a hole clean through a meter of reinforced steel. For a moment, everyone stood in stunned silence. Then Reed smiled. Begin mass production immediately. Priority 1. And make sure our alien friends don't wander anywhere near the manufacturing facilities. What about the Council's prohibition on developing new weapons? Walker asked. Reed's smile turned grim. They said we could keep our primitive weapons, didn't they? We're just maintaining our traditions. As they left the facility that night, Walker couldn't help but think about the Council's laughter during first contact. Soon, very soon, they would learn that underestimating humanity's primitive weapons had been their biggest mistake. 6 months had passed since the weapons breakthrough, and the mood in Earth's military command center was tense. Captain Walker stood before a holographic display showing the positions of Drachnid ships near the human colony of New Eden. The alien vessels, marked in red, were getting bolder by the day. "That's the third time this week they've crossed the boundary," Walker said, pointing to the display. "They're testing our responses." Admiral Reed nodded, his face grim. "The Drachnids think we're helpless. Just another protected species they can push around." A flash of light announced the arrival of the Council's representative. The aliens' colors swirled with what humans now recognized as irritation. "Your complaints about Drachnid ship movements are becoming tiresome," it said. "They are simply conducting routine patrols. Your paranoia is showing your species' primitive nature." Walker bit back a sharp reply. Instead, he pointed to the data. "These movements match known Drachnid invasion patterns from their last 3 conquests. We've studied the history you provided." The representative's colors shifted to a patronizing pattern. "The Drachnids are respected council members. They would never attack a protected world. Your weapons are safe in their museums where they belong. Now, shall we discuss your progress with proper energy weapon implementation?" After the representative left, Reed activated the secure communications system. "Status report on Operation Museum Piece. All colonies armed with the new rail guns, sir," the response came. "Disguised as modern art installations. Energy weapon mounts are just for show, as ordered." Walker smiled at that. Humanity had gotten good at hiding things in plain sight. Every human ship now carried both energy weapons and hidden railgun batteries. The aliens saw what they expected to see: primitive humans struggling to adapt to proper technology. But the Drachnids were getting aggressive. Reports came in daily of their ships approaching closer to human worlds, always pulling back just before causing an incident. Their representatives in the council chambers became more openly dismissive of human concerns. The breaking point came at New Eden. A small human cargo ship, the Star Trader, was running a routine transport mission when 3 Drachnid warships surrounded it. "Captain Walker, the emergency call came through. They're demanding we allow them to board, claiming they need to inspect for restricted technology." Walker watched the situation unfold from the command center. "Hold your position. Help is coming." He turned to Reed. "Sir." Reed's expression was cold. "Launch the response fleet. But remember, we're still playing their game. Energy weapons only, unless absolutely necessary." The human patrol ships arrived quickly, confronting the Drachnid vessels. The alien ship's shields glowed with confident power, their energy weapons charged and ready. "This is a council matter," the Drachnid commander announced. "Your presence is not required." That's when one of the Drachnid ships fired a warning shot, an energy blast that passed too close to the Star Trader's hull. The human patrol ships immediately moved to defensive positions. "Final warning," the patrol leader transmitted. "Withdraw from human space." The Drachnids responded with laughter. "Or what? You'll shoot us with your museum pieces." One Drachnid ship moved to seize the Star Trader. The patrol leader made a quick decision. A single rail gun round streaked across space, too fast for most sensors to track. It punched through the Drachnid ship's shields like they weren't there, striking a glancing blow to the vessel's engine section. The Drachnid ship spun, venting atmosphere. Shocked silence filled all communication channels. "How?" The Drachnid commander's voice shook. "That's impossible." "Withdraw," the patrol leader repeated calmly. This was a warning shot. The next one won't be. The Drachnid ships retreated quickly, their previous arrogance shattered. But Walker knew this was just the beginning. The secret was out now, at least partly. Humanity's museum pieces weren't as harmless as the council thought. "Send word to all colonies," Reed ordered. "Full alert status." The Drachnids won't take this humiliation lightly. Walker nodded, already drafting the orders. The game of pretense was nearly over. Now they would see if humanity's preparations had been enough. The attack came at dawn. Drachnid warships appeared over 3 human colonies simultaneously. Their energy weapons lit up the sky, turning night into day. But this wasn't a border skirmish. This was an invasion. In Earth's military command center, alerts blared as reports flooded in. Captain Walker watched in horror as the casualty numbers from New Eden, Haven, and Aurora colonies climbed. "They're not even trying to hide it anymore," Walker said, his voice tight with anger. "This is a full-scale attack." Admiral Reed's face was stone cold as he activated the emergency broadcast system. "All colonies, execute Protocol Thunderstrike. Authorization Reed Alpha 7. This is not a drill." Across 3 worlds, hidden weapons platforms emerged from their camouflage. Buildings that appeared to be museums housing primitive weapons transformed into military installations. The trap humanity had spent months preparing was finally ready. The council representative materialized in the command center, its colors showing agitation. "This is merely a minor border dispute. The council has decided not to intervene." "Minor?" Walker interrupted, pointing to the casualty reports. "They're bombing civilian targets." "The Drachnids assure us this is just a police action," the representative insisted. "If you'd simply allow them to inspect your colonies for restricted technology." A new alert cut through the conversation. The Drachnids had launched their ground invasion of New Eden. Dropships descended through the atmosphere, their shields glowing with confidence. Walker looked at Reed, who gave a slight nod. "Patch me through to all defense forces," Walker ordered. "This is Captain Walker. Execute Operation Museum Peace. Weapons free. I repeat, weapons free." What happened next would be remembered in galactic history forever. As Drachnid troops began to land, expecting an easy victory over primitive humans, the museums and art installations across New Eden's capital city transformed. Hidden panels slid open, revealing ranks of rail guns and coil guns, all loaded with the special penetrator rounds humanity had perfected. "Impossible." The council representative gasped as the first videos reached Earth. "Those are just ceremonial displays." The rail guns fired. Streams of hypersonic projectiles tore through Drachnid shields like paper. Dropships exploded in midair. Drachnid ground forces found their supposedly impenetrable personal shields useless against precisely aimed tungsten rounds. "Battle report from New Eden," the communications officer announced. "Enemy forces in retreat. Haven and Aurora reporting similar results." The Drachnids, they're running. The council representative's colors had faded to a sickly pale shade. You deceived the council. You continued developing weapons in secret." "No," Reed corrected calmly. "We simply maintained our existing ones, as you permitted, though I notice you're suddenly not calling them primitive anymore." Walker coordinated the counterattack from his station. Human ships, revealing their hidden weapons, engaged the Drachnid fleet. The aliens' energy shields, optimized to defend against energy weapons, proved nearly useless against accelerated metal rounds. "New Eden is secure," Walker reported. "Haven and Aurora pushing back the invasion forces. The Drachnid fleet is in full retreat." "Impossible," the council representative repeated, its colors showing shock and fear. "Your species, you're supposed to be helpless. Protected. Under our guidance." "Protected?" Reed's voice was cold. "We protected ourselves. While you laughed at our weapons, we prepared. While you dismissed our warnings, we got ready. The galaxy's going to learn something today. Humanity doesn't need protection." The battles lasted less than 6 hours. When it was over, the Drachnid invasion force was in ruins. Videos of their defeat spread across galactic communications networks. Mighty Drachnid warships brought down by weapons they had mocked as primitive, their superior technology proved worthless against human ingenuity. Walker watched the council representative flee the command center, no doubt rushing to report to its superiors. "They're not laughing anymore, sir," he said to Reed. "No," Reed agreed. "They're not. And this is just the beginning. The galaxy's about to change, Captain. The age of underestimating humanity is over." News of humanity's victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within days, Earth's communication channels were flooded with messages from other protected species. They all wanted the same thing: human weapons. Captain Walker stood in Admiral Reed's office, reading the latest diplomatic updates. "The Blue Star Alliance is the 5th group to request our help this week," he reported. "They've been under Drachnid protection for 3 centuries. And what they really mean is Drachnid oppression," Reed said, studying a holographic map showing the political changes sweeping through the galaxy. Just like the others. The door chimed, and a council emergency delegation materialized in the office. Their colors showed a mixture of anger and fear. "This is completely unacceptable," the lead delegate announced. "You are distributing restricted military technology to protected species. This violates dozens of council laws." Reed smiled calmly. "Restricted technology. We're only sharing our primitive projectile weapons, the ones you said we could keep as museum pieces. Nothing restricted about that. You know very well those weapons are no longer considered primitive." The delegate's colors flashed in frustration. "The council has reclassified them as Class A military hardware." "Oh," Walker raised an eyebrow. "So now our museum's pieces are advanced weapons. Interesting how that changed." Before the delegate could respond, new alerts flashed across the screens. The Spiral Arm Alliance, another group of protected species, had just driven Drachnid forces from their worlds using modified human weapons. "You don't understand what you're doing," the delegate insisted. "You're disrupting thousands of years of galactic order." "An order built on keeping others down," Reed countered. "How many species have you classified as protected just to control them? How many were forced to abandon their own technology to adopt your superior systems?" Reports continued to pour in. Across the galaxy, oppressed species were rising up. Human-designed rail guns and coil guns, modified for different physiologies and environments, proved devastating against the standardized energy shields the Council had forced everyone to adopt. "The Council hereby declares all projectile weapons illegal," the delegate announced desperately. "Any species found using them will face severe sanctions." Walker couldn't help but laugh. "Good luck enforcing that. Your energy weapons can't stop our primitive bullets, remember? And now neither can your shields." "This is revolution," the delegate protested. "No," Reed corrected. "This is evolution. The galaxy learned something important from humanity. Never assume your technology is superior just because it's more complex. Sometimes the simple solutions are the best ones." After the delegates left, Walker and Reed reviewed the latest alliance requests. Species that had been looked down upon for centuries were now reaching out to Earth for help. Humanity had become a symbol of resistance against Council oppression. "Production facilities on Mars are running at full capacity," Walker reported. "The new joint training program with the Blue Star Alliance starts next week. Their troops are eager to learn our primitive ways." Reed nodded approvingly. "And the Drachnids, retreating from all disputed territories. Their fleet's a shadow of what it was. Turns out their entire military doctrine fell apart once their shields failed. They never even considered the need for backup systems." A message flashed on the main screen. Another group of worlds declaring independence from Council control. They had already begun converting their energy weapon factories to produce railguns. The Council's biggest mistake, Reed mused, wasn't underestimating our weapons. It was underestimating how many others would rise up once they saw it was possible to fight back. Walker watched the galactic map as more and more systems changed color, showing the spread of the revolution. They thought keeping us in museums would make us harmless. Instead, they put our weapons on display where everyone could see them. And now, Reed smiled, the whole galaxy is learning that sometimes the old ways are the best ways. The Council's perfect order is ending, Captain, and it all started because they laughed at our guns. The combined fleet gathered at the edge of human space was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Ships of 12 different species formed up in attack formations, all modified with human weapon systems. At the fleet's heart, the Earth Defense Force flagship Defiance prepared to lead the assault. Captain Walker stood on the bridge, watching the final preparations. All fleet elements report ready, Admiral. Reed nodded, his eyes fixed on the tactical display showing their target. The Drachnid home system. Who would have thought? 6 months ago, they were laughing at us. Now we're leading a fleet to their doorstep. The communications officer called out. Message from the Council, sir. They're demanding we stand down. They say this attack will destabilize the entire galaxy. The galaxy's already changed, Reed replied. Send no response. He turned to Walker. Status of the Blue Star Alliance forces. In position, Walker confirmed. Their gunners have completed training with the new weapons. The Spiral Arm Fleet is also ready. Everyone remembers what the Drachnids did to their colonies. The Drachnid Defense Fleet waited ahead, their energy shields glowing bright enough to be seen from light years away. They had reinforced their defenses with everything they had, desperately trying to find a way to stop human weapons. Enemy fleet broadcasting. The communications officer reported. They're saying we're violating Council law, that this attack will bring severe consequences. Walker smiled grimly. They still think they can threaten us with Council laws. After everything they've done. Reed raised his hand, and all chatter on the bridge ceased. All ships, this is Admiral Reed. Remember your training. Remember why we're here. The Drachnids thought they could prey on those they called primitive. Today, we show them the cost of that mistake. All ships, commence attack. The human-led fleet surged forward. The Drachnids had adapted their tactics, trying to keep their distance and rely on long-range energy weapons, but they couldn't match the range of the new hybrid rail guns humanity had developed. First volley, fire, Walker commanded. Thousands of rail guns fired simultaneously. Streams of specially designed projectiles crossed the void of space. The Drachnids' upgraded shields flared bright and failed. Their front line broke apart as ships exploded or spun out of control. They're falling back to their inner defense line, Walker reported. But something's wrong. They're moving too quickly. It's a trap, Reed realized. All ships, brace for. The space around the Drachnid fleet lit up as hidden weapon platforms activated. Not energy weapons this time, but their own version of projectile weapons, crude copies of human designs, rushed into production. They've been studying our technology, Walker said, watching as enemy fire streaked toward them. Reed smiled, but not long enough. Show them what 2 centuries of ballistic weapon development really means. The human-led fleet's point defense systems activated, another primitive technology the Council had dismissed. While energy shields struggled with physical projectiles, computer-guided interceptor rounds had no such problems. The Drachnid copies were too slow, too crude. Their attacks were swept aside, and the Allied fleet pressed forward. World after world in the Drachnid system fell as their defenses crumbled. Finally, the Drachnid Emperor himself called for surrender. On the flagship's bridge, Walker and Reed watched the transmission. We, the Emperor's colors showed shame and fear. We request terms. Reed's voice was cold. Unconditional surrender. Immediate withdrawal from all occupied territories. And you will turn over all records of your weapons research to Earth. To Earth. The Emperor's colors flickered in disbelief. You were supposed to be primitive, protected. That protection became our strength, Walker said. While you relied on technology you barely understood, we kept developing, learning, improving. Your mistake was thinking that different meant inferior. The Drachnid Empire surrendered within the hour. As Allied ships secured their worlds, Reed turned to Walker. Send word to Earth. The next phase begins now. Sir. The Council needs to understand. The galaxy doesn't need their protection anymore. The age of looking down on primitive species is over. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council looked very different now. Where once only the advanced species had seats, representatives from dozens of formerly protected worlds now sat as equals. The old council chamber, with its displays of energy weapons and shield technology, had been rebuilt. Now it showcased technologies from all species, a reminder that progress could come in many forms. Captain Walker, recently promoted to Admiral Walker, stood at the speaker's podium. Next to him, Admiral Reed watched with pride as his former student addressed the new council. 1 year ago, I stood in this chamber, Walker began, and watched council members laugh at human weapons. Today, I stand here to mark a new chapter in galactic history. The chamber was silent. Representatives of every species, from the energy-wielding old council members to the newest admitted worlds, listened intently. The Drachnid Empire's surrender wasn't just the end of a war, Walker continued. It was the end of an age where one group could decide what counted as advanced technology, where being different meant being primitive. He gestured to the displays around the chamber. Look around you. The Blue Star Alliance's gravity manipulation technology, once dismissed as too simple. The Spiral Arms biological computers, called primitive because they weren't crystal-based. Human projectile weapons, laughed at because they weren't energy-based. All of these were called primitive. All of these proved vital in winning the war. The former High Counselor, now just one voice among many, shifted colors in what humans had learned was embarrassment. We were wrong, it admitted. We confused complexity with advancement. The greatest weapons in history, Reed added from his seat, were never the most complex ones. They were the ones that worked. Walker nodded. That's why the new council charter has one fundamental rule. No technology will ever again be dismissed as primitive. No species will be protected against their will. Every world has the right to develop in their own way. He activated a holographic display showing the new Joint Defense Fleet. Ships of every design and size flew together, each contributing their unique strengths. Human railguns worked alongside energy weapons, biological computers coordinated with crystal matrices, and shields of all types protected the vessels. The old council thought uniformity meant stability, Walker said. They wanted everyone to use the same weapons, the same shields, the same strategies. But they created a galaxy where everyone had the same weaknesses, where one counter to their technology could threaten everything. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes and sensor organs of each representative. The new galaxy we're building is stronger because it's diverse. Multiple technologies, multiple approaches, multiple solutions. No single weapon or defense can overcome all of them. The chamber erupted in approval. Even the old council members joined in, their colors showing acceptance and hope. After the session, Reed joined Walker in the observation dome overlooking the council world's capital city. Ships of all designs flew through the skylanes, a visual reminder of how much had changed. Not bad for a primitive species, Reed smiled. From protected status to leading the council in 1 year. Walker watched a human ship fly past, its railguns proudly displayed alongside its energy weapons. The funny thing is, if they hadn't laughed at our guns, none of this would have happened. Their mockery made us more determined. Their dismissal gave us the element of surprise. And now, Reed asked, now we make sure no one's ever laughed at again for being different. Walker turned to his old mentor. The galaxy's a big place. There's room for all kinds of progress. As they watched the sun set over the capital, ships of all species and designs streaked across the sky. Each one was different, each one valuable, each one proof that progress didn't follow a single path. The council had laughed at human guns, but that laughter had changed the galaxy forever. In trying to protect humanity, they had instead awakened something far more powerful, the understanding that true strength comes not from forcing everyone to be the same, but from embracing the value in being different.